What's up, Leafs fans? Welcome back to Leafs Digest. We're nearing the season here. Things are amping up. We're getting all excited about opening night coming up. But one of the themes that's kind of been surrounding this team after all of the failed playoff runs, the bad, not even bad, but just the miscalculated, I guess, deadline deals, some of the cap situations that we've ended up in where we can't go out and sign or acquire guys that we've been looking for and make trades that we think would be ideal for this team to get over the hump. One of the big themes that's come around is this is the last dance type of year for the Maple Leafs. Now, if you're not familiar with the Michael Jordan documentary, it was on Netflix. Pretty unreal documentary, I gotta say that. I'm a huge Michael Jordan guy, so just air that one out there right away. But The Last Dance essentially was all about how the Chicago Bulls, they had their last opportunity to go out and win a title. Like, that was kind of the theme of what the title represented. It was their last chance to go and win championships. They did so. They went out and actually ended up grabbing themselves 6 titles, 2 separate, 3 consecutive titles. But going into this season with the Leafs, after all these failed runs, and you've got these big core group of guys who are taking up a huge amount of cap space, people keep saying this is the last dance. The first thing I want to talk about here right away, Goody, can this possibly be the last dance if you haven't won anything? What kind of last dance is this?
Well, when you put it in relation to Michael Jordan, it's a different type of last dance, but I do get what they mean. This group has been given a lot of chances, although they're young, and it's getting down to the wire where something big needs to happen. We need to shake up this roster because there's some big contracts. We've had some guys do some repetitive mistakes. So at the end of the day, something drastic might need to happen. You look what happened with the Raptors, right? DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry had their last dance, and then it ultimately was DeMar who got traded. Could see something like that happen again with the Leafs franchise. But yeah, it is a last dance in some manners, but to say it's a Michael Jordan-esque last dance,
Yeah.
nowhere near that.
Yeah, it's more of like a last chance you type of situation. It's a last
Yeah.
chance, not a last dance.
Yeah,
uh,
there you go. Last chance for the Leafs. That's the truth, though. It is the truth. They haven't won anything.
Now, more specifically in terms of last dance, let's stick with the last dance theme. Who is this the last dance for? Is this the last dance for the players, the core group of guys that you have here? Morgan Riley, Auston Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, William Nylander? Or is this the last dance for the management group? Like how do you see this? Who is this the last dance for?
I'm going to go and immediately take the pressure off the management because I think Dubas and Shanahan have actually done a really good job. They've made all the moves that the fans have wanted to see. They've tried to balance out the rosters in ways that were pretty glaringly obvious. So I definitely don't think they should be on a last dance situation. They've done everything they can. My issue is when you bring in guys to help you contend, and we could point to how many free agents have left after being signed to, an average of 12 games with the team. Shitty stuff. But at the same time, you look at it from the standpoint of had you contended, had you gotten past the first round, had a better team culture, well, then maybe you retain those guys. So ultimately, I'm saying the last dance is probably for Sheldon Keefe. I don't love the way Sheldon Keefe runs the team.
You're going off the board on this, eh? Like I threw out players and management grabbed at Sheldon Keefe on that one. I like it.
Yeah, well, you can consider him management in a sense, but yeah, I'm saying Sheldon Keefe is the guy who I would see on the hot seat. He doesn't have a coaching resume in the NHL to speak of outside of this, so to act like he is some holy grail of coach when we don't really have that sample size from him, and we're just banking on him panning out, and the team's just not playing right. And when adversity strikes the Leafs, John Tavares goes down, first line stifled. Like, he hasn't handled controversy, or I guess adversity, that well. I don't know. I don't really think he's an outspoken guy. I know he's laid back and chill, but I don't know if that's right for this group. I'm saying Sheldon Keefe should be the guy on the hot seat. And then like the 1B to that would be Marner. So we obviously got to attack the top line, but it's not going to be Matthews. I don't care if Marner still gets more points, whatever it may be. I think you hold on to Matthews and then shop Marner partially because of the contract.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to kind of follow in the same path as you here because I agree with you that the management here, especially in the last 2-3 seasons, or I would say 2 seasons and going into this third upcoming season here, they've made a lot of adjustments. Like we saw with Mike Babcock, he was very stubborn and he said, this is how to win. This is the way to win. This is my way to win. And I'm going to win this way. And he refused to make adjustments. He wouldn't move guys around different lines. He wouldn't try things, etc., etc. it was kind of a concern with Dubas coming in here and his style of management and the way he likes to organize teams that people were afraid he was going to be stuck in his own way, the Mike Babcock sense of like, this is how you win in the NHL, this is how you win, etc. He, especially in the last 2 seasons, has really shown that he is flexible and willing to make change. So I really appreciate what he's done with this team, the different types of moves that he's made, the different guys that he's brought in, because he hasn't deviated and completely gone 180 and switched his game plan entirely. But he allowed for some type of adaptation to bring in guys who don't necessarily fit the Kyle Dubas model, right? Like he brought in Wayne Simmons, Zach Bogosian, brings in Joe Thornton, Jason Spezza, and like Thornton and Spezza aren't guys who are going out there and fighting, but when you bring in even just like Muzzin and then you bring in Foligno at a deadline, like those are guys that I don't think originally Kyle Dubas would have brought in. So I appreciate what he's done here and I like it. My answer is a little bit more complex of whose last dance this is, but primarily I think it's the players here, because it's hard to look at this and say this is entirely Dubas's fault. I get people are going to look at the contracts and say, what the hell were you thinking? Whatever. But in reality, of those 4 guys who really eat up the cap space that everyone gets all upset about, Matthews, Marner, Tavares, and Nylander, when those contracts were signed, I would say honestly, and even right now, the only one that you could actually look at and be like, man, that one's too much money is the Mitch Marner contract. And I think that that's just because he's a winger and his lack of playoff success. Austin Matthews is going to get that money on any single team in the NHL. Every single team in the NHL would pay him that money that he's getting right now and was going to get then. On the other hand of that, or adding on to that, is John Tavares. That money that he's making right now, yeah, it's kind of like, oh man, we didn't need that. We didn't need to sign that guy and it eats up at our cap. But that being said, he was being offered more money by other teams on the market there. And when you have an opportunity to go and get a premier center in the NHL, who honestly, he gets bashed for no reason, I think, in Toronto, just because the team hasn't done well. Whereas when you go and look at Tavares' success with this team while he's been here and he's been the captain, he's been an incredible player, right? Like he has been a superstar player here. He just has other guys ahead of him scoring more points. So you're like, oh, like what is Tavares doing? But like, ultimately, I think this is the last dance for the players, and one player specifically, and it's exactly who you said, Mitch Marner. This is Mitch Marner's last chance, because Matthews is not going anywhere. John Tavares is not going to be able to be traded because of repercussions from fan base, repercussions from ownership, and who else is going to go out there and want to trade for that contract on an older guy who's going to have a lot of term left and a lot of money?
Yeah, you see, that actually is the worst contract to me. And I don't know, Marner, like all 4 of those guys, like we got them on fair deals. Like anyone who bashes that just doesn't want a skilled hockey team, and it doesn't make sense. Like that's the market value. Look at this previous offseason, or I guess the offseason we're currently in right now, and how much guys are getting paid. And you look at the contracts on our team, especially Willie. Like we aren't in trouble. Like you have to lock up these players. You're not just going to let them walk and then go sign elsewhere for exactly the same, if not more. I'm totally with it. I'm okay with locking that amount into these guys. And we brought in decent supporting cast. To me, like I tend to come back to Sheldon Keefe as the guy I blame, but you're right. Marner's going to be like the 1B if things go south again and he doesn't perform in the playoffs, because he gets paid so much and he's so sensational. Like I have a feeling if you were to trade Mitch Marner, he would just do so good somewhere where he doesn't have
100%.
Toronto breathing down his neck all the time and all that drama and a fresh start. Like Mitch Marner would do sickeningly good. Like he would be so refreshing in another place. I wouldn't want to see it. I think we got to hold on to him, let things pan out, let him grow and learn. But if it goes down the pipe again, I don't know. Then you do need to shake it up. But I would be looking at Sheldon Keefe first, to be honest.
I think Marner, is also the guy that you could move to make a drastic move. Because the thing is that you're not moving Mitch Marner to go and get a better forward. You're going to move Mitch Marner to make 2 things happen. One is going to be a huge shakeup on this team in terms of personnel, character, just the dynamic of the group. And the second part of that would be of what you're going to accomplish with that trade is that you're getting massive pieces in return. And even that, like, it branches out into a further out tree is like You're getting massive pieces in return, and then that also dictates the direction that you're going in after. Are you going and getting someone huge that's going to help you win right now, like a number one defenseman, a huge guy out on the market that's being shopped, or are you going and flipping it for copious amounts of draft picks and cap space so that you can go and maybe sign guys or try to change the direction of the team some other type of way? He's that guy that can actually bring in that big haul because everyone else out there is going to be dying for him. Austin Matthews, you just can't trade that. You just can't trade that guy.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no chance. You don't move that guy. I don't know any other way to put it other than you don't move that guy for this fan base, for just the success of the team. Like, he's a guy was on pace to basically score 60 goals this year. Like, I don't know.
And
it's just,
that's the way harder thing to find. Like,
yeah.
you can find playmaking in a lot easier places. Marner's gifted, like completely gifted. I just spewed about how awesome he'd be to get a fresh start somewhere else, but it's goal scoring is clearly the higher commodity, and Austin Matthews does it debatably better than anyone else.
Yeah. My only concern really, and not concern, but like my kind of doubt with this would be, so Shanahan is secure. This is not his last chance here. He came in here 2014-15, and kind of the things that he's done with this team, he was a part of drafting William Nylander, Mitch Marner, and Austin Matthews. Matthews, a gift, honestly. Like, sitting there, you win the lottery, you're going to take that guy. It's the way it is. But he had to tank for that season to get that. He's now made the playoffs for 5 straight years. He only missed 2 playoff rounds. He was a part of the Tavares signing. He's been a part of all these contracts. He turned the team, you might find this funny how I put this, but he turned the team from embarrassing, laughingstock of the NHL, to a competitive team that was enjoyable to watch, to now what we are looking at as an embarrassing contender. And I don't know if that makes sense, but like, they're a team that every year for the last 2 years and going into this season, we're like, this team is a contender. And then they just embarrass themselves when it comes down to it, because they lose in the first round or they lose to Columbus the way they did. So like, embarrassing contender is like Tampa getting swept by Columbus that year.
Like, I just think it's honestly coming down to we haven't had the right coach. Like Mike Babcock, I think there was something to be said about him coming in and immediately being hard and tough on the younger guys and kind of like teaching them to deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't think you were going to win with him, but I think he was kind of an important piece in building up the dudes, especially the young guys on the team. Sheldon Keefe, I think he needs to be built up. Like, I don't think he's ready to come in and handle a contender, and especially one that has controversy and a fan base like this. I don't know. I don't see him as the guy like a Barry Trotz or even like a Tortorella, like someone with a bit of a backbone, but also an ability to connect the players. Like Babcock was a hardo, but he also wasn't like a player's coach. A Trotz or a Torts, they are a hardo, but they also know how to relate to their players and kind of guide emotion. I just see a really passive outlook from Sheldon Keefe. Maybe I read too much into his body language, the way he speaks, his lack of results. I don't know. Something about Sheldon Keefe has been super underwhelming to me. I don't think he's a bad coach. I just don't think he's going to be the guy that steps in and helps the team win right now.
Fair enough. I feel like it's kind of hard because like we kind of only had the one real season with him as like the full-time head coach. That first year he stepped in, he took over from Babcock partway through, and then even this year he was kind of during a COVID year, and then now we're going to actually get to see him in a full proper training camp, full everything. Like, everyone's there, everyone's healthy, everyone's ready to go to start this season. And he's going to have an 82 game schedule, so we can kind of see how he handles it this year. But Goody, before we go here, I have a statement / a question all in one, and I kind of want to see where you stand on this. And it's going to be a hypothetical situation in a way. So regardless of the situation, I think this is the player's last dance. If they don't make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, they don't have to win, but if they don't make it there, or they don't put up a competitive bout even in the third round, the conference finals, I think this is the players last year, and you can't run it back with this core. If they make it to round 3 and they're competitive and they lose in like 6 or 7, or they make it to the finals, I think you can maybe say, okay, like, let's give them another shot, see what they do next year. But if it's second round or less, players last dance, like, one of those guys has to go no matter what. Now, here's kind of where I'm coming at this from is, and this is my part statement, part question for you. I kind of feel that if this team is out in the first round or they don't make the playoffs, Dubas is done 100%. if they make it to the second round and they actually get there, and then it kind of gets let down by the players, which it was last season as well. I would not put last season on Dubas. I would say the players let us down. If it gets to the second round, the players let us down again. I think there's like a 75% chance Dubas is safe coming into the season after, and he gets one more shot at it, but still the last chance for the players if they go out in the second round. Do you agree with me there? Like, how do you feel about that? Is that kind of just a ridiculous take?
To me, I just think he's set up the team so well. Like every answer I have, I think comes back to Sheldon Keefe. If it doesn't go according to plan, I'm holding him accountable because even now, like to this very moment, I think Dubas has made the right moves, like bringing in Richie, Kasha, David Kampf. Like he's done the things that we need to do. To me, I don't think it's an issue of talent. It's no longer an issue of grit. Like you said, he made adaptations from wanting all skill players. He had his own learning curve when he got into the NHL and figured out that you need physical veterans. You need like a Spezza. You need a Wayne Simmons. A guy like Bogosian helps. So and Muzzin as well. Muzzin's been huge for the team. He's learned these things. He's done these things. He lives up to the criticisms. Like when Leafs Nation comes calling for something, he tends to live up and find a solution. I don't hold him accountable. I think if it falls through, it depends on the fashion it falls through. If it's a first round exit, I think you probably look at moving players and Sheldon Keefe. And if you get into the second round, I think maybe just Keefe.
All right, fair enough. Well,
that's what I'm thinking.
Well, Leafs fans, thanks for tuning into this video. We want to know what you guys think. Who is this the last dance for? If this is the last dance for anybody, is it the players, Keefe, management? And then what kind of scenarios do you think we'd have to see in order for certain guys to move, certain guys to be fired? And then on top of that, who replaces them? If there's a new coach coming in, who's the coach you want to see coming here? Who's the GM that you'd want to see coming in to replace these guys? And on top of that, Goody and I both kind of seem to think that Brendan Shanahan is safe here. Do you guys think Brendan Shanahan is safe? Let us know in the comments below. Leafs fans, we look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Until then, keep believing.
Signing off.